There is one release in particular from TUDOR this year that stood out to me, and I have to say, it took the crown. Welcome back to Time in the Wrist at Chisholm Hunter. My name is Harrison, as always, and today we're going to be talking about this model, and I'm not going to open up the watch box just yet because I want to give you a bit of context first. Everyone at Watches and Wonders 2023 went off about the TUDOR Black Bay 54. They went off about the TUDOR heritage with the METAS and COSC certified movement, but there didn't seem to be as much hype around this model. The Black Bay GMT with the Opaline dial. And it's just weird to me that this watch didn't have as much hype around it as the new 54 or the new heritage edition with the METAS and COSC certified movement. It, to me, is one of the best looking watches that TUDOR released this year. And I don't know why, I feel like I'm going insane saying this because no one believes me. And I don't know why. And that's why I wanted to talk about this model today. I specifically remember calling Drew at Watches and Wonders. I'd filmed 3 or 4 TUDOR models and I said, I want to edit this one first. And Drew said, no, let's edit the 54 first. And I couldn't understand why, but then I realized that it's the watch that had most hype around it. And this was the watch that I think is a sleeping giant. Anyway, I am going totally off topic. Let's talk about the specs of this watch and why this watch is so good looking to me. But before we do that, please let us know below what your favorite watch release from TUDOR was this year. Because personally, I think it was this watch. And if you agree with me, please let me know. Because I seem to be on my own here. This model comes in at 41mm in diameter and fits my 6.5-inch wrists perfectly. But the only snag with this watch, the only snag that would stop me from buying this watch is the thickness. Its thickness comes in at roughly, according to our digital calipers, 14.5mm in diameter. Now see if this came in at 13mm or maybe 12mm, I'm telling you right now, I would buy it because it's such a sexy model. The sad fact of the matter is I'm just not big enough of a man, of a guy, to pull off that thickness in a watch. It's just a little bit too chunky for me. This model's lug to lug comes in at roughly 50.2mm. So it is quite a big chunky watch, make no mistake, but I do have to say it does wrap around the wrist quite nicely. This model is made entirely from stainless steel and it has a combination of brushed and polished stainless steel. Now because of this and the thickness and the movement inside, it is quite a hefty, chunky watch. It weighs a lot. It feels high quality and feels like what you're paying for. It's a high quality TUDOR watch. And the weight of this model comes in, quite fittingly, at 187 grams. Just to put that into perspective, the Black Bay 54, which we just reviewed prior to this, came in at around about 137 to 140. That's a big difference. The bracelet on this model comes with a 3-link approach, the middle link being the largest and the outer 2 being smaller. Now, the outer surface of these links of the bracelet are all brushed and the sides of them just here are polished, so they reflect the light really nicely. The clasp on the bottom of this watch has a safety latch just here, and it is a deployant clasp that flicks it back like so. And it is very easy. I like TUDOR's system, bracelet system, but I really want to see on this model the new TUDOR T-Fit clasp with those micro adjustments. It's just an awesome feature for TUDOR watches. The case on this watch has a combination of polished and brushed steel. Now, if you look down the lugs, you have a stripe, a kind of stroke of polished steel which reflects the light wonderfully, and on the side where the crown is and the other side here, you also have polished steel and the rest is brushed. So it kind of accentuates the lines when reflected in the light, and it's pretty similar to the previous generation, or not the previous generation, the other color of the GMT, the black dial. And on that note, I do need to say most of the specs, if not all of the specs, apart from obviously the dial and the obvious features that have changed, are very similar to the previous variant, to the black dial or the bronze GMT. And all this can be seen on the Chisholm Hunter website, where we're actually official stockists of TUDOR watches. If you want to shop this watch or any in the TUDOR range, make sure you hit the link below. Diving straight into the face and the bezel of this model. The bezel is probably one of the most attractive features of this watch. And I love the way that it plays with that Opaline dial, but we'll get into that in a second. The bezel on this watch is a bi-directional rotatable bezel with 48 notches. It comes in steel with a 24-hour graduated anodized aluminium disc in matte burgundy and blue. And those two colors playing together, chef's kiss. We need to pause this video really quick, and I need to say a huge thank you to you guys for building this incredible watch community. Over the next year, over the next 2 years, we've got a goal of 50K, and then 100K, and then after that, we're heading for 1 million. So if you want to join our incredible watch community, please consider hitting that subscribe button. We would really appreciate it if you could help us reach that goal. The dial has domed sapphire crystal glass, which gives it a really nice vintage aesthetic and is a throwback to the classic Tudor Submariners that we all know and we all love. And the dial on this model is an Opaline dial with a galvanic finish. This watch is also waterproof to 200 meters, but listen, that's not the key point here. The key point is, of course, the dial of this watch. Now, the dial of this watch is so sexy. It's so sexy. It's kind of a metallic-y white, and it sheens and changes in the light when you reflect it. It is absolutely beautiful. And when you pair that with that matte blue and matte burgundy or red, it looks absolutely phenomenal. The only thing that I would have liked to see from Tudor this year, and I really am upset that they didn't bring it out, is an Opaline dial or a Polar dial Black Bay Pro. Can you imagine how sick that would look? The dial on this watch has the iconic snowflake hands that we've grown to love from the Black Bay range and has a date window at 3 o'clock. It also has a red GMT hand which stands out wonderfully against that Opaline dial. Now it's important that you say Opaline because it isn't quite white. The hands and hour markers are filled with superluminova, which shines beautifully in the dark. And again, when you match that green superluminova with that white dial, and you have just a little bit of light to play with, so you can still see the dial slightly, it just plays wonderfully. The way that it matches, the way that it looks, the aesthetic that it gives, you can't beat it. I love bright dials. Now this goes without saying, but just before we go on to the movement, I think it's important to cover. Now this is obviously a GMT model, which means it can read multiple time zones at the same time. So this is the perfect traveling companion. And I do think that with this paired with a NATO strap, would just be epic in a cold country. Can you imagine wearing this in Norway or Iceland in a snowy environment? The pictures that you can get would just be sexy. It's such a photogenic watch, and I think that's why I love it so much. Coming from a photography and videography background, I love aesthetically appealing stuff. Things that look good on camera, and this looks super sexy. The movement in this watch is the manufacturer caliber MT5652, and this movement is of course COSC certified. Please remember that this is the same movement that is in the black variant, so they have the same core. This is a self-winding mechanical movement with a bi-directional rotor system, and it has a power reserve of approximately 70 hours. I truly believe that if they slimmed this down just a touch and you switched the bracelet for a NATO strap, you would have the perfect watch. And I'm not just saying that, I don't say that lightly. It's not often that after being in the industry for 7 years, a watch really excites me to my core, to the point that I want to purchase this model. And if they slimmed that down that little bit and added a NATO strap, I would purchase this model. This is my favorite release from Tudor this year. It is absolutely sexy. And the only thing that would beat this, in my opinion, is probably a Black Bay Pro with a Polar dial. But on that note, let me know if you agree with me. Do you think that this is the sexiest model that Tudor released this year? Do you think it's a sleeping giant? Please let me know in the comments, because I don't like being alone, and I feel like I'm alone right now. I feel like everyone's ganging up on me and preferring the Tudor Black Bay 54. I like this model. And that is all we have time for today. If you want to see more from the Chisholm Hunter channel, please hit this subscribe button. If you want to see more content and videos and get into a nice, good YouTube hole about watches, then click this video, and I'll see you guys in a couple of days.